Hey guys, I'm going to show you how to create a basic quiz type of game using control flow, or another name for it is conditional operators or conditional statements, basically if statements. This is key to programming because this allows your software or the software that you create to actually make decisions based on what the user types in. So depending on the input from the user, it'll make some decision and output something. So in our quiz game, you would take the input from the user and check the answer and see if it's correct, and add points and stuff like that, or give some feedback. So we're going to start by creating a new replit. So look for this blue button up here. So click on that. And of course, we're going to use Python. And let's call this conditional statements. Create that. So conditional statements just means based on the condition, it'll do something. So here we are presented with the Replit page again. Let's just close down the files. We don't need to see that. And I'm just going to move this over a little bit to give more room. So just like I said last time, we always want to start off with commenting because that's good practice and also allows us to pseudocode. Pseudocode meaning you can actually think about what you want to code and do false code, which is do it all in plain English, and think about kind of the logical steps in order to get your whatever it is working, and then think about what Python commands to put in. So in plain English, I'm going to start off by, because this is going to be a quiz game, so I'm going to introduce the user to the game. I hate when that happens. Sometimes they help you too much, and you have to go backtrack and delete whatever they helped type out for you. Introduce the user to the game. Okay, so when we get that, it's trying to put in whatever that is. So I'm going to press escape to get out of that. I don't want that. The next comment is going to be ask their name. And there we go again. Name, press escape, ask their name, and then we're going to say hello. So there's a greeting at the beginning. And then we're going to start asking some questions. And then we're going to check answer. Let's check answer. Let's do 3 questions. So check answer 1, check answer 2, and check answer 3. Let's spell this correctly. Okay, so inside my answer checking, it's going to check whatever they typed in and check it with an answer key. And then if it's correct, it's going to say correct. If it's not correct, then it's going to say wrong answer, and then it's going to output the correct answer. All right, so introduce the user to the game. That is an easy thing to do because you learned it in the very first lesson when we did our hello world. That's just going to be a print statement. So print welcome to my quiz game. Okay, and you can type whatever you want, but I'm just going to say welcome to my quiz game. Ask their name. Now, when I ask their name, and the next line says say hello, that means I want to store their name into a variable in order to say hello and then make it personalized. So to make it personalized, we're going to use an input command. And we're going to create a variable called name. So we're going to store whatever they type into the input into this variable called name. So we're going to put input, and then the prompt is going to be, what is your name? And I always like to put a space at the end because otherwise the cursor that they type into is jammed next to the question mark. And it's just me. I don't like that. If you want to keep it there, that's fine. Say hello. So for this, we're going to concatenate. So there's a couple ways to do this. I'm going to show you what you're used to, which is concatenation, and then I'll show you an even better way, which allows you to more easily format whatever you're saying. So we're going to go print. We're going to say good to see you, and then oopsies, good to see you, space, concatenate name plus, and then exclamation mark. Okay, so let's run this and see what happens. It says, what is, welcome to my quiz game. What is your name? And I'm going to say Bob. And it says, good to see you, Bob. Okay, so you've done this before. This is concatenation. You're taking a string and concatenating or putting it together with whatever they typed in to their variable, whatever their name was, and then concatenating or adding it together with an exclamation mark at the end. So there's an easier way to do this that requires less typing, and that's always great. So instead of doing it this way, where you have to go good to see you, space, plus name, plus exclamation mark at the end, we can format our variable by replacing it with %s. And what that does is it says, this is a variable that's going to come. %s meaning it's going to be a string variable. So you can just go, good to see you, exclamation mark. Now, you have to fill it in with something. So after the quotes, you put percentage, and then the actual string or the variable that you're going to fill in there, which is name. And what this does, wherever you put %s, that's going to be replaced by whatever you put at the end here. And that's what this means. It means whatever's coming up is going to replace this variable in here. Okay, and that's less typing, but also you can put whatever formatting you want around it. And it'll just, whatever is in here will just get filled into that %s. So this will run exactly the same. If I type in Jane, it says, good to see you, Jane, right? But it's a lot easier to type out as long as you remember how to do this. So now let's go to asking the questions. I had a couple of questions prepared. Let's just print out another statement here first, because anytime you're doing any of these things, you want to think about, what does the user see? Do they understand what they're looking at? So I'm going to say, I'm going to ask you a few questions. Try to answer correctly. Okay. So I'm going to start asking the question. Now, before I ask the questions, in terms of how this looks, I think what I'm going to do, because if I just put the print statement here and then start asking questions, the questions are going to be jammed up against the print statement. So another thing you could do is add extra lines or new lines. And to do that, we're going to use the escape character. The escape character means, hey, Python, what's coming up is going to be a special command, basically. So if you put a backslash, it's called backslash because it's leaning back, because in North America, we read from left to right. So this would be leaning back instead of forward. So we put \n, that represents new line. And you can put as many as you want. I want to put 2 new lines, so I put \n twice. You can see that Replid actually understands that this is something different, so it color codes it pink. All right, so now there's This says try to answer correctly, and then it'll drop 2 lines. First question. So I'm going to store all my questions in these answer variables because I'm going to check those answers later. So the first question I'm going to ask, and then their answer, the user's answer, is going to be stored in ans1. So the first question, and I'm going to number these. 1, where did the Python language get its name? Okay. Second question. Who created Python? Third question. Oops, I forgot the number of the second one, so I'm going to put 2. This thing that's popping up is really annoying because it gets in my way. Well, one way you could turn it off is just to go to settings, and this is code intelligence, sometimes not so intelligent. So that's one way you could turn it off. But that turns off all the other help that you get, which is fine. You can leave it on if you want. But if it's bothering you, you can turn it off and then turn it back on for other things so it can actually help you type in stuff. Is SARS-CoV-2 a virus or a bacterium or bacterium? Okay, so those are the 3 questions I'm asking. So what's going to happen is if I run this, what's your name, blah, blah, blah. Now it's going to ask you the questions, and every time you type in an answer, it's going to store it into each of these separate variables. Answer 1, answer 2, answer 3. Of course, the rest of the program's not finished. We want to be able to check the answers and then tell the user whether they got it right or not. Okay? So after the user enters all their answers, now we're going to go through the checking stages to see if it's correct. So before we do that, I'm going to add 3 lines here. So we're going to really easily go, that's 3 extra lines just to space things out. And then now we're going to check answer 1. This is called a conditional statement. And it's basically an if statement. And in some languages, you go if, then. In Python, you just go if. So you go if answer 1 is, and we put 2 equal signs here because we're going to compare this to an actual answer. We're going to compare this to an actual answer. Whereas if you use 1 equal sign, you're assigning a value to this variable. So that is a major difference. Whenever we use an if statement and we're comparing 2 different answers to see if they're exactly the same, then we use 2 equal signs. So this is saying if answer 1 is the same as, that's what the 2 equal signs mean. If it's the same as, where did the Python language got its name from? A comedy troupe in Britain called Monty Python. You may have seen Monty Python and the Holy Grail and a bunch of other movies that they did. Maybe not. If not, then look it up on YouTube. So Monty Python. Okay. So if it's Monty Python that they entered, then we're going to say print number 1, correct. Okay, so this is where we can go, it's correct if they answer that. What if they don't? Or else, that basically means if the above is not true, then you're going to print 1. Sorry, the answer is, and then we're going to use %s again. and then period. So percent Monty, monthly, Monty Python. Okay. All right. So the other thing to keep in mind is whenever we're checking answers like this, you have to think, okay, what are the different things that the user might do that could mess this up? One thing could be that maybe they type Monty Python with like a bunch of spaces before it. Maybe they type Monty Python and then add a bunch of spaces after it. So that's a possibility. Maybe they capitalize Monty Python. Maybe they capitalize Monty and then lowercase Python. Maybe they lowercase Monty and uppercase Python. Any combinations of those. So in order to prevent us from having to check every single variety of what they type in, we're going to actually force their answer to be corrected or filtered. So what we want to do, the least we can do, is to actually take whatever they typed in and then get rid of the spaces on the left and right side. And to do that, you actually take answer 1 and go dot strip. So strip takes away any spaces to the left or right of what they typed in. So that way, if they put space by accident, Monty Python, it's not going to say, oh, it's not correct, sorry, it's wrong, because it's not exactly what we have here. So instead, it's going to strip out the spaces and then compare it. The other thing we could do is to make everything lowercase. So we go lower. You can go upper as well, but then just make sure your answer key answer is all uppercase. Because what you're doing is you're taking whatever they typed in, you're stripping the spaces from the left or right, and you're also changing everything to lowercase. And that prevents them from, typing one of the capital letters or the second word, the capital letter, and then you don't know, you have to deal with all these different varieties of answers. So instead, make it all lowercase and then compare it, because that's all we care about, that they typed in the right answer. We don't care about the case. And then compare it to my answer key answer, which is Monty Python, all lowercase. Okay, so as long as they typed in the words Monty Python, doesn't matter if they had spaces, doesn't matter what cases they had, it's going to be correct because we stripped it, we lowered it. Okay, and you can add more if you can think of other ways to manipulate the string that they typed in. You just keep adding dots and keep doing that. All right, so I think that one is good. Let's go on to our second answer. What was our... I always get his name wrong. Okay, so check answer 2. If answer 2, we're going to do the same thing, strip it, make it lowercase, and then let's make sure our answer key answer is lowercase as well. Otherwise, you're going to get some problems in that it's going to say it's not correct because you forgot, because whatever they typed in has all been converted to lowercase. Of course, your answer key that you're comparing to has to be lowercase too. Guido van Rossum is his name. Okay, that's the inventor of Python. Okay, and please notice that at the end of the if, there's always a colon. And also notice that after the colon, if you press enter, it automatically tabs in. This is very important. In Python, tabbing is absolutely important. Tabbing indicates that something is nested inside a different command. So this print statement on line 20 here is only as the result of this being correct. So it's kind of like a sub category of that parent here, number 19. So basically, if you don't have this tabbed in, it's going to read this and go, if it's Monty Python, and it's going to go, what do I do? I don't know what to do, because your next line, number 20, is tabbed out, which gives it the same value as line 19. It's not. It's a part of line 19. So the print statement is part of the if statement. And that's why you have to tab. Same thing with line 21 and 22. This print statement is as the result of line 21, the else statement. Okay? So that's why when you press enter after the colon, it knows that what's coming up should be the response to when it equals Guido van Rossum. So now we're going to put in the print to correct. Now, let's think about other ways this could be answered. So what if they just said Guido? Like, I'm not on a first name basis with Guido van Rossum, but maybe somebody is. So in order to put in alternatives, you can use an elif. Elif basically means or else if. Shortened, it's elif. So elif, and we're going to go answer to dot strip dot lower is Guido. Print to correct, because that's also correct. We can put in as many elifs as we want. So elif, here's another alternative. Answer to dot strip dot lower is Van Rossum. Let's say they answer that. So you can think of all the different alternatives just to make your program smarter, because you can imagine if they put Guido and it's incorrect, and later on it says the correct answer was Guido van Rossum, then you'd be like, but I answered correctly, I just forgot his last name. Well, it really depends on how you want to do the answers of this quiz, right? So be generous. If you're going to be generous, then put in alternative answers or even spelling sometimes. And you can have as many as you like to make the program seem smarter. So this is also going to be correct. You always have to end with an else, because what else means is that if the top three answers, the top three statements are not correct, then this is what needs to happen. Okay, so if all else, if all the above is false, then we're going to go to this last resort, print to sorry, the answer is, and then %s, and we're going to print Guido van Rossum. All right. Finally, let's go and check answer 3. If answer 3 dot strip dot lower is equal to virus colon, don't forget the colon, this is what's going to happen. You're going to go 3 correct. Elif answer 3 dot strip dot lower is a virus. Print, and I can just copy this. Correct. Okay, and you can think of other alternatives, but just make sure it's virus, something to do with viruses. Else print 3 Sorry, the answer is percent %s, and then percent. Oh, I made a mistake up here. This should be percent, not %s on line 32. Okay, percent, and then the correct answer is virus. Okay, and I already have a period because you can format this properly at the end here. All right, let's run this. Syntax error. Syntax error tells you that there's something wrong with how you typed in stuff. Expected end of file, EOF, end of file while parsing, line 41. Let's go to line 41. There's no line 41. Okay. I see what I did here. So I forgot to put parentheses. So print statements always have to be surrounded, or any function has to be surrounded with parentheses, and I forgot to do that. So I need to put that in here. Now, let's run it. What is your name? Jake. Glad to see you. Good to see you, Jake. I'm going to ask you a few questions, try to answer correctly. Where did the Python language get its name? Snakes. Who created Python? Van Rossum. Is SARS-CoV-2 a virus or bacterium? Let's try the alternate answer of a virus. So the first one's incorrect, of course, because it's not from a snake. The answer is Monty Python. Second one's correct, third one's correct. Okay, and you should really test different answers every time and see if they actually all work out. All right. Now, if you want to add a score, you can do that. It's actually not that difficult. At the beginning, I'm going to, before we even introduce the user to the game, I'm going to create a variable here. Score equals 0. It's going to be an integer variable. Okay, and we make it an integer instead of a literal string because we want to be able to add to the score. So score starts off being 0. And then where do we increase the score? So obviously we need to increase the score here. Anytime they get something correct, we want to add 1 to the score. So you can do this. The score is equal to the original score plus 1. The shorthand way to do this, and what most programmers will do, is go plus equals 1, which means the same thing. It's just less typing. So when you go score plus equals 1, that adds 1 to the score. And if you want to take off points for answering wrong, you can go score, guess what it is? Minus equal 1. Okay, or if you want, add 5, minus 10, whatever you want to do. Okay, now for each of these, I'm going to do the same thing. Score plus equals 1. Anytime it's correct, I want to do that. Score plus equals 1. This one's correct, so score plus equals 1. This one's incorrect, so score minus equals 1. And this is correct, score plus equals 1. This one is correct, so score plus equals 1. And this last one is incorrect, so score minus equals 1. And then again, let's just conclude game over. Say print. And let's add a couple of lines here to space it out away from where we gave the answers. Thanks. Let's say your final score is. Now, remember we used %s. here, because we have an integer, it's a type of number. So for numbers, we actually use %d. So we go, your final score is %d, and then percent whatever their score is. So we present the score to them. And then we'll go print, print, thanks for playing. That's it. Let's try that. Okay, what's your name? Let me move this over. My name is Jane. Where did Python language get its name? Let's say Monty Python. Who created Python? Guido did. SARS-CoV-2, a virus or bacterium? Let's say bacterium. Let's try to get that one wrong and see what happens. So if you add up the score, it starts off with 0. This one should be correct, so that's 1, plus another one, that's 2, and then this one's -1, so your final score should be actually 1. Correct, so the answer is virus. Your final score is 1. Thanks for playing, and thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please email me. Feel free to rewatch this, pause it, slow it down, whatever you need to do. Thank you.